Welcome to the Best Known Church Show, where we show you how to 10x your reach with church marketing that will help you increase your impact, make more disciples, and become the cornerstone of your community again. This is for the leaders with an outrageous vision, because anything less would be an inaccurate reflection of our Creator. The ones who have unreasonable faith, because you know God works unreasonable miracles. And the ones who are relentless in the pursuit of your calling, because anything less would not make a good and faithful servant. If that's you, you're in the right place. Now, please welcome your host and guide on this journey to become the best-known organization in your community, Justin Nava.
Welcome to the Best Known Church Show. My name is Justin, and I have a question to start off today, pastor, church leader, whoever's listening to this. I'm going to assume it's a pastor. Let me ask you this. You ever feel like people aren't paying attention to your church? Do you ever feel like people see you, or the city sees you as just another church among a dozen others or hundreds of others if you're in a big city? Do you ever feel like your church is the best kept secret in town? That all stings. But to make it worse, when we've made efforts to change that, to shift that, to make more people aware of us, to make more people know about our church, our ministries, our services. I'm not just talking about butts and seats. I'm talking about how your church can guide them to find abundant living that God so much wants, that we so desire as well for them. And yet what we try does not do the job. It doesn't seem to work. No matter how many others it has worked with, the church down the street, the church your buddy from seminary went to, they all say, we did this and we experienced tremendous life change, amazing results, and we tried only to be left scarred, a little bit more anxious, and now we have new roadblocks whenever we want to try something else that's new to reach new people. If you feel like that, you are not alone. I felt like that. Many of my clients have felt like that. And in today's video, I'm going to share with you what no other software company or course maker, guru, whoever will tell you about promoting your church, about communicating who your church is to the community, to your city, to your neighborhood. Because it's not something that's easily done, and it's certainly not something that's easy to put on a sales page to get people to subscribe to a monthly subscription or an annual payment or whatever it might be. I'm going to share with you today exactly the 5 new rules for church growth, or the 5 new rules for church communication to get your name out there in the community. Because I know that you know that if just more people knew about your church, you could make a greater impact. If you could just get more people aware of who you are, where you are, and how you can serve them and improve their lives via our Savior, that they no longer have to wander around purposeless, hopeless, sick, and dying, but find that everlasting water that Christ gives us. You know that if they just knew that, your church could more effectively carry out its mission and make more disciples, to grow the kingdom and make an impact on the people you're called to serve and be more relevant to them so they pay attention to you. And so you're no longer unknown, best kept secret, but now you're the best known organization in your community. And that's what this show is all about. If we haven't met, my name is Justin. I run an agency called Nava Church Marketing, but I'm not here to talk about me. I'm going to talk about you. I'm going to go right into it. Because, Pastor, there are people out there that need your church, that God is calling to your church. And because there are certain roadblocks that they don't know how to find you, or they try to find a church and you're not there, someone else is there. And I'm not talking about another good church. I'm talking about wolves in sheep's clothing are out there on the prowl, doing things that you're not doing, communicating more effectively with their lies, with their deceitfulness, with their trickery. And they may think even that they're doing good work, but they're not. And you know it. The people in your city, your neighbors, don't know it. And so what can we do? What can we do as church leaders, as pastors, as communicators to better get our church out in the city? And instead of seeing the people, our neighbors, our friends and family, the people that we see at school, at drop-off, at the kids' sports games, at the high school, at the grocery store, instead of seeing them be led astray and we're just shouting into the echo chamber because we can't get noticed. Instead of seeing that happen where they wander as they wonder, they wonder as they wander. Instead of that, they know exactly who your church is. They know exactly where you are. They know exactly when you're open. They know exactly how your church can improve their lives and bring them salvation, bring them deliverance out of what they're facing right now. No matter where they've been, no matter where they've come from, no matter how thick or thin their house is, their bank account is, their family is, no matter how desperate they are, your church is there to answer the calling of their needs and to guide them to the truth. And what no one else will tell you, pastors, what I'm about to tell you, that's why I'm calling them 5 new rules. Not because I'm so haughty that I have this secret that I've uncovered and now I must share it with you, but that seminary and constant marketing barrages from sponsorships at conferences, from marketing newsletters that you keep getting sold and bounced around to, from others even that with the best intentions give you tools and something to try and it just doesn't work as well as anyone else. I'm here to tell you, Pastor, it's not your fault and it's not surprising. And you're not the first person that's going to hear this. And you wouldn't even be the first person to tell me that they're experiencing this. And you're definitely not going to be the last. I had a call with a prospect. That's someone that we're looking at exploring a partnership to help them communicate their church and reach more people and become the best known organization in their city. I had a call with a prospect who got mad at me because not only were our services, and I'm going to tell you right now, we're not the cheapest around. We're not the most expensive around, but we're pretty close, okay? Our services are not $60 a month. They're not a simple monthly set it and forget it. We're not a vitamin shop. And this pastor, in our consultation, which we always consult first, we do it pro bono. If a business walks off the street and says, hey, can you help me build this strategic map of how to reach more people and communicate with more people? We're going to charge them. For churches, we do it pro bono. Okay, we do it on the house because I want you to reach more people and I want you to see the roadmap that's going to take you from unknown to best known, from secret. What's the opposite of secret? I don't even know. Common knowledge, right? From secret to common knowledge. We'll work on that. I want to give you that roadmap. And so this prospective pastor that I worked with, I gave him that roadmap. We said, here's where you are. Here's where you want to be. Here are the exact 9 steps to achieve that result and be the best known organization in your city. And he said, what's it going to take? Here's my credit card. And I said, well, wait a second. We got to talk, this is going to involve some serious creative, some serious planning, some serious investment, both in time and resources on your end and our end. Because we can do a lot of the work. However, a lot of the follow-up has to be done on your end, Pastor. And he got really upset with me. And he said, I've got all these companies that are ready to take my money for $60 a month. What you're promising me here, this other company promised me for $60 a month. But I want to work with you, Justin. I want you to do this for me. So what can you do? Why is this costing 1,000 times more than $60 a month? Is my math right on that? My math isn't right on that. But anyways, why is this not $60 per month? Why can't, I'm trying to help you, man. Find the service. Someone else out there is doing it for $60 a month. And this is where I upset him, as if he wasn't upset already. I said, if that's what you want is to spend $60 a month, then please go to that other company. Go to that other church that told you about this software and please sign up for it. And if it works, I will be so happy because you've got the roadmap. And if you can make that software work with this roadmap that you have already told me, Pastor, is the clear path that your church can find success within your mission. I said, please do that because I don't have anything like that. I am not here to sell you a vitamin and hope it works. I am not here to sell you a software and hope it works. And we'll talk about why in a moment. And he just got real upset with me because I wasn't doing what everyone else is doing. But here's the thing. If you do what everyone else is doing, you can expect the same results as everyone else. And how many people are the exception rather than the rule? We know that your church was uniquely equipped or is uniquely equipped to uniquely reach a unique group of people. And if you do what every other church is doing in the way that every other church does it, then it should be no surprise that people look at your church and say, that's just another church. We have dozens in our small city. We have hundreds in our medium-sized city. We have thousands in our large city. And you're just a blip on the map. What good would that do if you're just another church and I've tried other churches and you say, but we're different? How different are you if you're taking the same steps as every other church to try to communicate who you are? It makes no sense. It's like the person with an addiction who keeps doing the same thing and then wonders how he can't kick his addiction. If you want something new, if you want something you haven't, if you want something you've never had, you're going to have to do something you've never done. And we know that in the path of salvation and discipleship, right? You have to accept Jesus' gift, which you've never done, who then calls us to live a life of obedience in which we've never tried before. But in that, we experience an abundance we've never felt before, a joy we've never had before. And so in communicating who our church is to the community, to the city, to our neighborhoods, we have to do something that hasn't been done before to get them to do something that hasn't been done before, which is to engage with your church. If you're constantly blasting out the same message, if you're constantly using the same tools, you are going to constantly get the same results. And for too long, as far as church communications and church marketing has really arisen in the last decade, churches have been following the same rules and achieved the same results. And I'm here to tell you, Pastor, if you're tired of getting the same results, this is what's for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay out 5 rules here for church growth, and that is communicating who your church is to the community, to get them to pay attention to you, to take action, to be inspired to interact with you, to engage with you, to connect with you, so that you can disciple them and bring them into the fold as God is calling them to you. And not, here's what you're going to avoid. You're going to avoid being just relegated off to the sidelines while someone else comes and captures them and leads them astray. Whether that someone else is another church, whether that someone else is another religion, or whether that someone else is just another product, another consumer-based product. How many people say, I need more in life? Let me watch another Netflix show. I need something more to fulfill me. Why don't I go to this club? Why don't I get in this relationship? When there is something else compelling them, but they don't know of you. And they don't know of the message that you bring of hope, love, light, peace, salvation, deliverance. In order to get something we've never had before, which is your city's attention, we have to do something that we've never done before. I'm going to give you 5 rules to kind of follow in figuring out what that thing is. There is no one tool that will save you. There is a tool that might follow the 80-20 rule where, hey, it's going to take 20% of our resources. And when I say resources, I'm talking about time and energy and attention and money. It's going to take 20% of our resources to give us 80% of the result. I think that's great. And eventually we're going to get to the point where all churches are doing that 20% and you've got to figure out the other 80%. And again, if you truly believe that your church is here to impact your city, to impact your community, to change people's lives, why would you not be relentless in your pursuit of doing so and making sure you have the right strategy, the right plan to engage with these people? Because I think so often we say, hey, I've got this great plan, this great idea. Let's see what it looks like to do. And then we're not willing to do what it takes. And dare I say, we're not willing to go broke in achieving that and seeing it happen, to which I have to question, Pastor, if you're not willing to go broke in saving the lives of your people, if you truly believe that God will bless your church, that if you give everything you have and God will not bless it, is it worth doing? And are you in, dare I say, are you in the right line of work if you're just there to be in church to comfortably reach out to the community, to comfortably do what you know you've done before, and even though it doesn't work to the fullest, doesn't work anymore, we're comfortable with it. You are relentless in your calling. You are relentless in the pursuit of your calling, because anything less does not make a good and faithful good and faithful servant. So we have to have some new rules. If we want new outcomes, we need to follow some new rules. Okay. If something's not working because you're playing by somebody else's rules, make your own rules. Okay. I'm not saying do anything illegal or unethical or obviously sinful. But if there is something that is not working, we need to do something else and not just keep trying it until it eventually does work. We need to embrace that. That's kind of step one, not rule one, but a step one. Embrace that you're getting the results you have because of what you've been doing. And if you want new results, you got to make some new rules. Here's the new rules. And rule number one. Rule number one, this is going to be so cliche. And I apologize if this sounds like a new 800-page book and the first 200 pages is crap you already knew. Sorry for the language, but hey, that's stuff you already knew. Okay. But this is so important, and it's not really a rule we follow anymore. I think it's a rule we speak by rote, but it's not something we actually follow and believe within ourselves, which it's got to be a rule. It's got to be rule number one. You have to know why you exist. A lot of folks will say, know your mission. Know your mission statement. Of course, I know our mission statement. It's on our website. Go and ask everyone on your staff and leadership and lay leaders and ministry leaders and group leaders, what's the mission of our church? I will be incredibly surprised if you get even 1 out of 10 that can tell you the mission of the church. And I'm not talking about your tagline. I'm not even talking about what our stated mission is. We're a church who disciples to make disciples, whatever language that is, right? We exist to see the city of Houston be changed and become a God-fearing, God-loving city that impacts the state. Like, that's cool, okay? They need to know at least what that is. The mission statement is not something that goes on your website. It's not a sales pitch. Go to Walmart, Target, McDonald's, Taco Bell, Bass Pro Shops, your local, Denny's. You're not going to see the mission statement on the website. The mission statement is for internal use only. Your leadership, your church body, which I think is unique to churches. Okay, your church body needs to know the mission statement. They need to live out that mission statement because it is why you exist. So how much of your internal people know your mission statement and why you exist? And it's important because everything bleeds out from that mission statement. And again, I think this is something we all know. We don't live it out. We say we exist to be disciples who make disciples. Great. Why do you have these events? Why do you go to women's conferences and only invite women in your church to go to another conference about being a good mother and wife? Where does discipleship, and we can kind of manipulate that into, well, obviously mothers are supposed to be disciples to their kids. They can be disciples to other mothers. Are you actually just trying to reason the two together? Or have you actually said, that's a great idea. However, it doesn't really help us impact our community, our city, and it doesn't really equip our disciples to make more disciples. Therefore, we need to invest that resource into something else, into something more relational, into something more communal that will actually help our mothers not get away from the family like we promote it. Get away from the guys, get away from the husband, take a break, take a retreat, get away from the distractions, and be molded and shaped in the way that God's created you to be. I think those are all great things. They don't all align with your mission statement. Your church can be doing a lot of great things, and you will go broke with no impact because you're trying to do a lot of good with not a lot of reason. So you need to know your mission. Rule number one, everyone needs to know your mission statement, and everyone needs to know how their ministry fits into that mission statement. And this is tough because, hey, I was in IT. Where does the church app fit into the mission statement of being disciples who make disciples? Where does the church app fit into making the city a God-fearing, God-loving city that impacts the state? How does the church app fit into that? How does this book study on finances for young couples group, how does that fit into making disciples who make disciples? How does a Dave Ramsey course fit into disciples who make disciples? How does a Dave Ramsey course fit into we're a church that wants to impact the city to become God-loving and change the state? How does that fit in? These are tough questions to ask that I know you know how to ask. However, the reason you're in this position is because you don't ask it enough. You haven't internalized it enough. I know that our mission statement at Nava Church Marketing is to help 1 million churches become the best known organization in their community. I don't even know if there's a million churches on this planet. I know there's around 340,000 in America, who's primarily our main clientele right now is American churches. But I believe in my lifetime that we can see 1 million churches come up, because one church will beget another church, will birth another church, will spur on another church, till eventually we have 1 million churches being the best known in their communities, the best known among the Black community, the Asian community, the Houston community, the North Houston community, the married communities, the single communities, the blue collar communities. When I say community, I don't just mean city. I'm talking about the people you are called to serve. That is our mission statement. And anything that we do needs to help you get to that point. We are not here to help you write better emails. We are here to make you better known. We are here so that when you write those emails, people will pay attention. We're not here to sell you a better software. I don't care what software you use for social media posting, for social graphic creation, for social media management, for social messaging, for email writing, for email posting, for church management system, for your website platform. I don't care about any of that. What I care is, are you doing whatever it takes to relentlessly pursue your calling, which is your mission statement, to see your community changed, to see your community impacted? That is rule number 1. You have to know your mission. Your team has to know your mission. And then anything that you do needs to bleed out from that mission statement. And it shouldn't even bleed out from the mission statement. It should bleed out from the mission of why you exist. Pastor, you are uniquely equipped to uniquely serve a unique group of people. Your church is uniquely equipped to uniquely serve a unique group of people. That's why your church was planted and not joined with another church. That's why God has called you to shepherd this local body and not just serve under another shepherd. And that's why every town has a dozen churches, not because we can't all get along, but because we're all uniquely equipped with unique gifts to reach unique people. And if you think your church is called to serve everyone in your city, when is your Korean language service? What time does your ASL small group class meet? And if you don't have those, then hopefully now you recognize your church is not equipped to reach everyone in the city. And that's okay, because someone is. Someone is properly equipped to serve special needs. Someone is properly equipped in your city to speak to people who don't speak your language. That's okay. I think we lean into that so we can better serve the people we're called to serve, better serve the people that God is calling us to. And if you think that's wrong, then why are you not doing whatever it takes to buy out, to merge, to combine all these churches so that you can better serve the city and the kingdom? If that's what you really believe, more power to you. But you are uniquely equipped to uniquely reach a unique group of people. You have a unique mission statement. You have unique values as a church body. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't believe in a homogenous universal church. I believe that every local church body is uniquely equipped to uniquely reach a unique group of people. There can be some kind of structure, or organizational denomination structure. I don't know. I don't care about any of that stuff. What I care about is, are you doing whatever it takes to reach the people that God's calling to you? Or are you just sitting in the back doing whatever it takes to stay comfortable in your effort to try to pursue your calling, as long as it's comfortable? That's what I care about. And then once you know your mission, once you know why you exist, I could talk about that for hours. But once you know why you exist, here's rule number 2. You need to be abundantly clear with who you are, why you exist, and, if I can throw a third one on there, what to expect when people engage with you and connect with you. Let's take that one at a time. You have to be abundantly clear with who you are as a church. And I think this is where a lot of people get frustrated with church, and why a lot of people feel like they have to deconstruct, because we misrepresent who our church is. We misrepresent who our leadership is. You and I both know that pastors are sinners. You and I both know that pastors cannot be perfect. We need to be above reproach, but there's no way we can be perfect. However, somehow people in our cities think that pastors should be perfect. So when a pastor does have a moral failing, when a pastor does cheat on his spouse, when a pastor does embezzle from the church, people are shocked. And absolutely, they should be shocked, but it shouldn't be surprising. Pastors are sinners. And we've kind of tried to raise the bar of the church as this perfect entity that when things don't go right, we get flustered and in the face and this goes against what we're supposed to do. But if people know in your city, hey, this church right here is an imperfect group of people that have somehow figured out that in that imperfection, they can actually live life more abundantly through what have you, obedience, fellowship, discipleship, whatever, community. Again, unique messaging. And instead, we've communicated that the church is some perfect place and that in order to achieve your own perfection, you have to follow another perfect entity. It's hard. It's hard to find that balance. But you need to be clear with who you are. Hey, we are a church that's going to have some issues if you don't speak English. I'm not saying lead with that message. I'm saying it's okay if you're not everyone. Don't feel ashamed that you can't perfectly serve a family. If you're going to have church service on Sunday mornings, you're going to exclude a good chunk of the workforce that works on Sunday mornings. It's just the way it is. Wednesday nights. If you have Wednesday night youth, you are going to now exclude a bunch of parents and youth who want their kids to succeed in sport. And it's not a bad thing, right? Some parents know, like my dad, sports was his only ticket to college because there was no way he was going to afford college. His family was going to afford college. He didn't go to the best school, but he went to the school that paid him the best money. And if he had sacrificed sports for church, God would have rewarded him. However, they did the best with what they had and the knowledge they had. I agree with you on that. But you have to be abundantly clear with who you are. We are a church to help those who can't help themselves. And that'll exclude people who think they can help themselves. That's okay. There's another church to help serve those people. That God will work best in the lives of those people through the leadership he's put in positions to minister to those people. There are certain people that you are equipped to minister to. Middle school is a great example. There are only so many people in this world that are equipped to deal with middle schoolers. And that's okay. More power to them. And your middle school will be better off when you get those people in that ministry and not people who, oh boy, just read the book and do your best. Ask questions and try to keep them from killing each other or doing other things to each other. You have to be abundantly clear with who you are and who you want to serve, who you're equipped to serve. One of my favorite things is working with boomer churches, and I say that respectfully, but older churches. We have an older congregation. We recognize we're beyond, quote unquote, saving with the young people. So here's what we want to do. We want to help our older generation become better disciples to their friends and family. The older generation is some of the most outgoing, most extroverted people on the planet that still go to bingo nights and go to take trips together. You know, I got a friend that's having a turning 50s get together with other women that they have, and they're flying out and doing a weekend together, right? I think that's great. And so what we want to do is we want to train up these older folks, these 60 and above folks, to be disciples because God's not done with them yet. The world has left them behind. We want them to know that our church has not. And we want to better equip them to disciple their neighborhoods, their friends, their family. I think we overlook how important discipleship is personally. This is a personal anecdote, personal belief. I think we overlook a lot in churches that discipleship of the family, parents discipling their kids, grandparents discipling their kids and their grandkids. But I love working with these boomer churches that know we are not going to have a ministry. We are not going to have a nursery. We are not going to have kids ministry. If you want to bring your kids, hey, more power to you. We love having grandkids in service. And we are ready to receive them with coloring books and colors and other fun activities that they can do quietly while we teach our people. But we are not going to break our backs trying to start a nursery ministry or a kids ministry for kids we don't know are actually going to show up. It's frustrating. It's exhausting. It's anxiety producing because every week is different. We cannot streamline it. We cannot systematize it. It's going to be a nightmare. So instead, we're going to say kids are invited to Sunday, but we don't have any kids ministries. I know a lot of older folk. I can think of one in particular that I won't share. But I know a lot of folks that would say, I would love to go to that church. because I feel so secluded and so excluded when I go to another church that's focused on the family. And I have to walk in there and see all these families together and see all these great events that the church is doing for the family. And then there's just the one random, oh, by the way, all the old people are playing cards together. That's great. I love that. I love those churches. I've got 2 clients right now that are specifically boomer retired churches. I think that's great. They're not a church for the church. They're not a coffin for the saints. They're an actively disciple-focused church that are just equipping the older generation. I think that's great. So know who you are and communicate that. Hey, we're a church. We don't have fancy facilities. So if you want perfect productions, go to this other church or go to Spotify. But if you want authentic relationship with people that will love you, know who you are, bring a casserole when things are tough in your family and you don't have time to cook for yourself, to help raise your kids because you have to work 2 shifts, mom, we don't expect anything more, or we don't expect anything less from you, because God loves you where you are. And we're just here to support you and serve you and help guide you in life to be a better mom, to be a better person, to find your purpose, because there is more to life than being mistreated at your double shift jobs, and figuring out what to do with your kids will help. I think that's great. So often we shy away from our imperfections. I'm not saying we need to go out and promote it, but I'm saying that if the opportunity comes up, lean into it. You also have to be abundantly clear with what to expect. When people come to your church, what should they expect? If you've got a gravel parking lot, don't hide it. On the plan a visit page, right, on your website. Oh, we've got service at this, and come just as you are. And we have coffee and donuts out in the foyer. And you got a nice, pretty picture of donuts that you haven't had in 3 years because the lady that used to bring those donuts are no longer there. So now you're just bringing Krispy Kreme cheap donuts. You don't have to promote your imperfections, but don't unethically hide them and make you look like who you're not. Okay? I think Jesus was clear of that. He didn't say Christianity was easy. He didn't say following me was easy. He made it abundantly clear that it's going to be tough. And I do think we have it easier in America than other places. However, it can still, and it should still be tough. And yet we try to hide that the church is going to be the ultimate salvation, that you're not going to have any worries after this. It's going to be all smooth sailing after this. And then people get burned out when difficult things happen after getting involved in the church, or worse, the church hurts them because they were falsely communicated of what the expectations are once you're involved in a church. So you need to be abundantly clear with who you are and what to expect when people engage with you. And again, I'm not saying go out and promote your imperfections. I'm letting you know, I'm going to turn my fan on because it's getting hot in here. I'm letting you know that you don't have to cover up your imperfections and pretend that they don't exist. Be abundantly clear. When you get here, you're going to have people that authentically care about you and love you and serve you. And then when they engage with you in person, when they come to your first impressions team, hey, be abundantly clear. Hey, by the way, we've got some really cool, some Krispy Kreme donuts over here. If you want to have some of those, we've got some coffee over here. We'd love to have you here. And don't put pictures of like custom gourmet donuts on your website. Don't put pictures of like fancy coffee makers on your site. Don't put pictures of mountains on your site if you're not a church in the mountains, if you don't live in a mountainous area. Okay. I'm going way down rabbit holes here. Let me get back on track. And just let you know that rule number 1, you have to know who you are and why you exist. And rule number 2, you have to be abundantly clear why you exist and what to expect from who you are. Obviously I don't want you to go out and just say, hey, here's everything wrong with our church. That's not smart. That's not the best thing to do. Right? It's just like your first date. You don't just say, hey, by the way, here's all my problems. I'm $60,000 in debt. I've got $100,000 of student loans in debt. My dad pays my gas card, and I'm addicted to alcohol. But, you're not going to lead a first date with that. Right? Otherwise, I know a lot of people that wouldn't have families. Anyways, so that's rule number 2. Rule number 3 You have to be incredibly intentional with your next steps. I talked a little bit about this last week with moving people from passive to active, but you need to give people something to do. Too often, we just bring people in and we hope they take a next step. We treat it like this giant marketing funnel or this giant, you might have heard it often called shotgun approach. We're just going to try a bunch of things and hope something sticks, hope someone does something. And that creates this consumer-based church where we're always looking for events to bring people in, and then we never actually give them a next step or something to do. We just say, hey, we're here, by the way, hope to see you again on Sunday. The new rule is to be incredibly intentional with your next steps and be incredibly transparent with what you want people to do. When I go out and form new relationships, I don't say, hey, I hope to see you on Sunday. Hey, by the way, I go to this church. I'd love to have you. I tell them, hey, I've noticed you've had some of these, you talked about, you don't really have a lot of friends. I think that's a problem. And in fact, if we seem to get along really well, let me pick you up on Sunday. Come to church with me. I'll take you out to lunch afterwards if you want. We'll make a whole day of it. Go back to my house, play some games or whatever. But I think there's some people that would really like to meet you and that you would really think are pretty cool as well. And hey, what do you think about that? Let's go do that. And by the way, add on whatever you want to that. Be incredibly intentional with your next steps. If you bring people to service, what do you want them to do after that service? I think the problem with a lot of churches, and we don't communicate this well in the church marketing or church communication space, is we say the biggest problem is all we do is want to get butts in seats. All we want to do is grow the church. Hey, look at the title of this video, right? I understand that this is not the end all be all, get butts in seats. The problem lies when we try to get butts in seats and then we don't try to do anything else with them. That's when it becomes a vanity metric, Pastor. It's when you just want to fill the sanctuary and you don't give them anything else to do. You need to give some next steps, whether that's an altar call, whether that's going to orientation, whether that's going to an event. We need to ask people what to do and then tell them how it's going to benefit them. There's nothing wrong with that, and that's why it needs to be a new rule. Communicate next steps intentionally and don't stop. Too many times people say, well, I invited them to church and they didn't want to come. When was that? I don't know, 2022? Dude, ask them again. Be intentional. It is my intention in our relationship that I lead you to Christ. For everyone that I know, for every one of my family members that are already Christians, because I come from a very predominantly Christian background family, it is my intention to guide them on a discipleship pathway to be better disciples, because I think there needs to be more to Christianity than just going to church and having a good life. There needs to be discipleship in there as well. So be incredibly intentional with your next steps. Everything you do as a church, here's the new rule, needs to have a next step. There needs to be a way to go deeper in that connection with your people. So you get them to church. What do you want them to do after they go to church? Get involved in a small group. Then every single church service should have an invite to a small group. And not, hey, you're invited. We have these small groups. I hope you show up. Your first impression team needs to be knowledgeable, not only in the mission statement, but in all the small groups, so that when they see someone, hey, by the way, have you checked out a small group? Or whatever you call them, life group, grow group, I don't care. Oh, I've heard about them. Well, by the way, I know Dan and Michelle, and they would love to have you because they've got a great babysitter that comes in. She works in the nursery. They can watch your kids. They'll be right in the next room. But not only that, it's a great group of people that you'll, whatever the pitch is, right? The pitch is going to be unique. I just can't make one up right now. I'll say one here. For my church group, right? We've got a great church group that, I understand that Sunday's important. However, there's a lot more that we can't get into on a Sunday. And a lot of people, when they come to church, they feel like the message is good and they want help living it out so they can experience that life that we all want to experience. And it's best done in relationships. And we've got a group that meets, they have a meal, they play games, they kind of talk things through and pray for each other. And basically, you don't have to do life alone, because Dan and Michelle, or Justin and Bridget, or AJ and Brittany, they want to actually do life with you and kind of connect with you and make sure that you've got someone looking out for you. You deserve to have someone looking out for you. You deserve to have someone that you can rely on. You deserve to have someone that cares about you enough to pray with you and be completely honest with you when you need to be completely honest with. If your next step is like for all women, right? Say you have that women's conference coming up. Every engagement, not every engagement, but many engagements with your women in church need to be an invite to that women's conference. And if someone says no, I'm not saying pressure them. Find out why. And then you can actually like, hey, that's not a big deal. We can work around that. Right? How many kids do we want to come to youth camp? Oh, I can't afford it. Don't worry about it. We can work around that. We can get you a sponsor. We can put you on payment plans. We can front it. Just pay it back when you get it. Right? And I am incredibly high level. I would never have a conversation like that. Right? I would say, well, let me ask you this. Do you want your kid to go to kids camp? Is the only reason just the money? Right? Because if it's not just the money, then you paying for it is not going to get that kid to camp. Whole different show. You have to be incredibly intentional with your next steps. New rule number 4. You have to be unique. And this is where a lot of the software and services and educators will not do the job that you need done. Because you need a unique approach. How many times do I got to say this? You are uniquely equipped to uniquely reach a unique group of people. So why would you use the same cookie cutter messaging as every other church? You preach unique sermons. You create unique worship sets. You teach, even if it's not unique curriculum, you teach it uniquely because no one else is teaching like Miss Barbara. No one else is teaching like Mr. Tim. It's unique. And yet we communicate our church in a way that makes us look like every other church. Welcome home. You're welcome here. A safe place to work out your faith. Find more here at Bill and Ted's Excellent Church. Every church website looks like that. Every church says welcome home. Every church says thanks for checking us out. Of course, every business would say the same if they didn't know enough to not communicate that and actually give next steps. You have to be unique. Embrace, again, we're stacking them on top of each other. You have to know why you exist. You have to know who you are and communicate that and what to expect. And then you have to be intentional with your next steps. All that has to be communicated uniquely. Because if you don't communicate it uniquely, 2 things are going to happen. Number 1, you're going to blend in with everyone else. Or number 2, you're going to mislead someone and break their trust even further. Because you've communicated what you want to look like or what someone else looks like, but when they get there, they experience something totally different. Break of trust. Right? This reminds me of a story. I went out with my fraternity, and my brother Jeff, my fraternal brother Jeff, ordered at the restaurant. It was a Mexican restaurant, but he didn't really care for Mexican food. So he found something on the menu called wings for every day. Just hot wings. The menu called it wings for every day. The waitress comes over, takes our orders, or server, whatever we're supposed to call them these days. Server comes over, takes our orders, and Jess says, I'll have the wings for every day. She dead-faced looks him in the eye and says, I'm sorry, we don't have those today. What? Sorry, the wings for every day? We don't have them today. Miscommunication, break of trust. We never went to that restaurant again. Not just for that. No one thing will kill a deal. No one thing will prevent people from coming back to your church. No one thing will stop you from going to a restaurant. It's a combination of things. However, that was a pretty big and obviously memorable thing because that was like almost 10 years ago. You have to be unique. If you are not unique, 2 things are going to happen again. You're either going to blend in with the noise or you're going to mislead because you're communicating something that you're not. You're communicating something to expect that they will not receive. You're communicating something that is non-existent, and they come with the hopes that it does exist, and they're left feeling unserved, unappreciated, misled, broken trust. You need a unique approach. The approach might not be unique. The approach might be something similar to what other churches are doing. The communication of it definitely has to be unique. Because if it is not, You will blend in with everyone else and you will look like just another church, which means people will treat you like just another church and say, I didn't like this other church. I obviously will not like your church. I was misled by this other church. I will obviously be misled by your church. Which is why the fastest growing churches are the ones that seem to do something that no one else is doing. Even though they might actually be doing what other churches are doing, they're communicating it in a way that resonates uniquely with their unique approach, or their same approach done with a unique group of people, for a unique group of people. You have to be unique. Number 5, you have to be relentless. You have to be willing to do whatever it takes. Okay? I think a lot of times in churches, this is why it's a new rule. We say, we're going to try this for 3 months, for 6 months, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Oh, but if it doesn't work in 6 months, is it worth trying? If we're not 100% convinced that this is going to be it. Hey, I know we tried this before, so it didn't work, so we're not going to try it again. We're not going to try another iteration of it again, right? Imagine saying, hey, we had a worship leader before, and it ended up that he cheated on his wife, and we had to kick him out. So we're not going to have another worship leader. I preached last Sunday, bombed. Totally bombed. I stuttered, my notes fell, I tripped on stage. Terrible. Not going to do it again. We're not preaching this Sunday. Not going to preach for a few Sundays. We don't do that because we're relentless in our pursuit to preach and teach and equip and educate our people and inspire our people to live out their faith, to be disciple makers. Well, guess what? We have to be relentless in pursuing our community and doing whatever it takes, short of sin. People hate it when I don't say that. Doing whatever it takes to reach the people and be more relevant in their lives. That means taking risk. It is amazing how many pastors say, well, you don't go into pastorship or you don't go into church ministry to be comfortable, except when it comes to money. Oh, I don't want to spend that much. Oh, I don't want to sign a contract that long. A fatter bank account means thinner ministry, pastor. We know we need volunteers. We know we need redundant volunteers. We know that, hey, we need to have a rainy day fund. I'm not saying go out and spend your rainy day fund on the next thing that comes on your list. I wouldn't want you to do that. I wouldn't want you to be irresponsible. But what if good stewardship means not playing it safe? But what if good stewardship means, hey, we're going to put this in the hands of God. And we believe this is the right path, and it makes sense everywhere but on paper. And we've been called crazy for taking this risk. But we're going to do it because we feel like this is what's going to change lives. This is what's going to accomplish our mission. This is why we were put here. And we believe God's going to take care of us. We do that with preaching. I'm going to preach a message. How many times have we said this on stage or even wanted to say this on stage? I'm going to preach this message, and I know there's at least 2 people here that are not going to come back because they're not going to like what I say, but it's the truth, and I'm going to preach it. How many times have we changed our culture at church? We are no longer going to be a come and see church, but we're going to be a go and do church. And some people aren't going to like that, and they're going to go find another church. And we're okay with that. However, when we become the church that says we're going to do whatever it takes, including become very, very tight financially and say no to some opportunities because we're having to fund other opportunities, we say, we don't want to do that. What's the cheapest you got? Trying to be cheap in ministry is not being a good steward. So the new rule is you have to be willing to do whatever it takes. You have to be willing to put as many people on a project as it takes if you believe that project is going to fulfill the mission of the church and move it closer to the vision that God's given you, to reach so many people, to change so many lives, to make such an impact, to see such change. You're willing to put however many people. You're willing to invest however much time. You should be willing to invest however much money, but let's just call it resources. You have to be relentless in your pursuit. If one sermon series doesn't work, you don't stop teaching sermon series. If exegetical preaching doesn't work, you don't stop exegetically preaching. You change the method around which you exegetically preach. You change the method in which you invest your volunteers. You change how much you invest, but you don't stop. And so often churches say, this Facebook ads didn't work, so we're never doing it again. I don't know what the mental block is here to say, this book didn't work, so we're never teaching books again. This service didn't work, so we're never doing service again. This ministry opportunity didn't work out. We were taken advantage of. We were, whatever, it didn't work out. So we're not going to take advantage of any other ministry opportunities again. But for some reason in church marketing and church communications and promotion and raising awareness and even fundraising, this didn't work. Therefore, we're never trying it again. Pastor, you are supposed to be doing whatever it takes to reach new people. And in today's day and age, you need to have some marketing savviness. You need to do whatever it takes to capture their attention, to engage with them, to connect with them. It needs to be more than doing what you've done before, doing what's comfortable, or doing what's clever. And unfortunately, nowadays in church, it's easier to do what's clever than to do what's clear. Do whatever it takes. Be relentless in the pursuit of your calling, because anything else is not a good and faithful servant. Does not make you a good and faithful servant. I believe God has put you here to lead a people, to disciple others, to make an impact, to grow the kingdom. You need to be doing whatever it takes in ministry, in preaching, in church leadership, and yes, now in the 2022 and beyond, marketing. Which means, yes, you can still be good stewards and say, we're going to try this software for 3 months and see what changes result. We're going to try this plan for 1 year and see what happens as a result. There's nothing wrong with putting restrictions, limitations, trials, or whatever. But to say we tried this before and it's not going to work again, that's not relentless. That's playing it safe. And again, did you get into pastorship? Did you get into church leadership to play it safe? Or to make change, to make waves, to make disciples? That's the question. So the new rules, you got to know your mission. And you've got to have it internalized as to why your church exists. And why is it such different from everyone else? Why are you called to be your church and not part of another church? Number 2, you have to be abundantly clear with who you are. We're not equipped to serve poor people. You don't lead with that, but you need to be okay with it. Right? We don't have a benevolence fund for outreach. Don't be ashamed of it. We don't have a kids ministry. Don't be ashamed of it. So many pastors are spinning their wheels, trying to make college ministries and young people's ministries happen. If it's not happening, stop putting resources into a dead ministry. Put it into something that is thriving. Know who you are. Be abundantly clear with who you are and what to expect. And then be incredibly intentional with next steps. Every time someone engages with something at your church, we know that's not the end. We know there is always room for improvement in people's lives. Give them something to do next. You have to be unique in your communications. You have unique preaching. You have unique worship services. Be unique in your communications in the way that you speak about your church, so people will know exactly what to uniquely expect when they engage with your church. How many times, breakaway. How many times has someone joined your church and then become incredibly frustrated that you won't make it like they want church? You have no problem telling them that's not how we do church here. You're not going to come here and start sledging walls and changing things around. We don't do the church that way. We don't believe that's the way that we carry out our mission. And then they leave your church. You don't feel bad for them leaving. They need a different kind of church. Or they need to fit within the mold of your church if your church is the covenant relationship in which they should belong to. Be unique in your communications, and then be relentless. Never stop trying to reach new people. This is especially true at the end of the year. Budget's drying out. Giving is going down. People are buying Christmas gifts instead of giving to the church. Therefore, any new outreach projects we're saving until January. Bro, there are people that need you in November and December. And they need you more than just a Christmas cantata or a Thanksgiving turkey. Be relentless in the pursuit of your calling. That means you might start something new in October so you can be ready to outreach those people in January. That's okay. These are the 5 new rules. I have one thing I want you to do today. I have a link down below this video. Or if you're listening, 360 360.novachurchmarketing.com. I know it's confusing. We don't have a sexy link for it. Sorry. 360.novachurchmarketing.com, or go down below here, or just search, or just message me, Justin Nava. Find me. My links are also down below. And we'll get you on a consult that normally we would charge for, but for churches, we're doing it for free because we want to give you the roadmap so that you can see success and follow these new rules. To see what it's like to properly communicate your church, increase your visibility, and maximize attention to get people paying attention to you. Everyone in your city should know who you are and where you are and what to expect. I'm not saying you need to get everyone in your church, but they need to know who you are. So when someone says, I need something, your church comes to mind, whether that's their own mind, whether that's the friends and family mind, or whether that's Google's mind. 360, that's the number, 360.novachurchmarketing.com. You can give us a call too. 832-861-7654. Look, last Sunday, I'll leave with this. Last Sunday, a lot of my church clients seemed to have some struggles. There was AV equipment going down. There was leadership having hot tempers. There was flooding, preventing services from happening, from church gatherings to happen. I had a lot of clients seem to have a really hard time last Sunday. And the thing that makes it harder is that they know that could have been someone's first Sunday. That was their first impression of the church. And what makes it harder is not that we tried to make something perfect and it fell short, and anything less than perfection is not worthy of someone engaging or interacting with our church. It's that we have to get over this habit of things go wrong, therefore wrong things happen with people that have this perfect impression of us. We told them what to expect and they didn't expect it. It didn't happen. They didn't experience it. And it hurts. It stings a little inside. I know. But if you do more than communicate how great your service is and how that's the first step, but if you actually communicate, this is a church where hope and healing can happen, where community can happen, where you can find out what that life is, then it doesn't matter that the lights go out, that the board doesn't work, that the service floods. What matters is that you came and we engaged with you and we gave you that next step because you didn't expect perfection. You expected a guide to help you find that perfection, who can save you from the imperfection of your lives. Whatever the message is. The clients that knew that, there was some frustration there. Oh, the people on live stream didn't hear me for half the service. There's some frustration in that. But the people that came that first service, there's still a relationship that was formed because the expectation was not a perfect service. The expectation was someone's going to care about you and love you because they communicated. What makes our church great is not the great preaching, is not the great service, is not the great worship, it's not the electricity. It's the people that are here. We communicated what makes us unique. We communicated what's going to make you come back, what's going to make you feel loved and wanted. It's not a great sermon. It's not a great donut or coffee. It's not what to expect. It's not the service. It's us. It's our uniqueness. And it stings a little bit having an imperfect service. That sting is made a lot less painful when you know that your people didn't expect that. What your people expected was for God to show up. And in every one of those services, God did show up. And people had their lives impacted. Because perfection and advertisement was not misleading. It was authentic. It was about them. So go if you need the pathway. And I promise you this is our guarantee, okay? We do not do any sales pitches in this consultation. We give you the consultation. It's over like 3 calls, okay? A phone call and 2 Zoom calls with your staff where we actually figure out where you are. We give you a bunch of stuff as well. And then we develop a roadmap and a pathway to give you a clear pathway to achieve your church's mission in your community, to reach 10 times more people, to impact more lives, to get more attention, to be more visible, to be discovered by new people. And if and only if you want us to do it for you, only then do we actually go into the proposal process. So there is, when I say no obligation, I know you're tired of hearing it. When I say there's no obligation, there is no obligation. I'm not going to sneak in a sales pitch. This is not a, hey, let me learn more about you so I can sell you. This is a 100% free clarity call for churches, pro bono, so that you can see exactly what you need to do to make your mission accomplished, or at least to get closer to it, to see the vision become a reality. Because I do believe that there are churches out there that you are hearing this, pastor, that God put me in front of you so you can take this next step. I'm doing what I'm teaching you here. I don't want you just to listen to this and go try to implement these rules on your own. I want you to take this next step so we can help you even more. Become the church that God has called you to be. Like and subscribe wherever you are. I know that's our way of saying goodbye now. I hate it as much as you do, Pastor. But seriously, when you like and subscribe, that signals to the platform, this is actually worth something. Let's serve it up to more people. There are other pastors who need to hear this that don't know of me yet. You can be the catalyst that puts us in front of those people so that we can have new brothers and sisters in heaven. All because you liked and commented and subscribed and all that junk. I hate it. It's a necessary evil, like paying your taxes. Okay? So like and subscribe so we can get this out to more people. Because I want to see 1 million churches become a cornerstone of their community. And all it takes is that one threshold to be broken so that someone can be put on the right path to reach more people, to change a life. And it'll be really cool when you meet them in heaven, when I meet them in heaven. All right, that's enough. Like and subscribe. God bless you guys. I will see you guys again next week.
That's going to do it for today's episode of the Best Known Church Show with Justin Nava. Be sure to subscribe to stay updated on the latest news, strategies, and resources that you need to reach 10x more people and become the best known in your community. To send us a message or leave a voicemail for Justin to be played on a future show, visit thebestknownchurchshow.com. And if you'd like to work with us so you can focus on your ministry, give us a call at 832-861-7654. Until next time, stay outrageous, unreasonable, and relentless.